shares, and then they're going to answer any questions you have. We're going to have a brief Q&A. So if you have any questions about the program, about their styles, about writing in general, throw them at them. Then we're done. About 15, 20 minutes of that, or less, depending on how many questions there are. We'll go out
and finish the cookies.
And finish the cookies and wine. That's right. All right. Thank you all. Does anyone have a question for either of our esteemed writers?
You have one over here?
Yes.
I am working on a bunch of different writing things myself, and I've gotten one little thing published a while back. So what is the best advice you think you got through this fellowship about writing, about the process, about maybe writing about uncomfortable things? Either one, I don't know.
The first thing that comes to mind is something that Jeremy said very early on, and might not be a funny joke to everybody, but he always told us to kill our babies, which is get rid of the stuff that even if you feel really strongly about it, if it's not adding to your work and it's not like helping you write anything else, it's okay to cut it out. And I did a lot of that. There was a lot of stuff where I felt really strongly about it, and I was like, this is a good poem. And then he would like look at it and then completely rewrite the title and like call it something making fun of you writing it.
Every time, man.
Like prayer of dedication turned into prayer of pessimism. So sometimes it's okay to just cut it out and start over. That's my message.
And piggybacking off of that, it is a difficult skill to learn, and I have not mastered it. I'm not even close. Of just like writing outside of yourself. It is very, very difficult for everybody, and it feels so intuitive in a way that is like insanely difficult to actually grasp. But it's important to like see your own work as just work and not your expression of your emotions, because then that allows it to be more. So I wouldn't say the word is palatable, because not everything is palatable, but it's important to like make it transmute.
How have you changed as writers from start to finish?
Oh gosh. I feel a lot more confident in my work, and a lot more critical of my work in a good way. I've always been pretty critical of my work, but now the criticism has direction. Like I know what direction to lead it into instead of just being like, oh, this sucks, let's throw it all away.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And also, I feel like I have become more of a writer. Like, I wasn't writing a lot beforehand, and I'm a singer first, so I might like write some song lyrics here and there or whatever. But I wasn't just sitting down to write for the sake of writing anymore like I used to. And this definitely encouraged me to start doing that again. Even now that the fellowship is over, I'm still like writing sometimes, all the time really. Like, I wrote poetry for my Instagram and Facebook caption the other day. So it's just everywhere now.
Denise?
How did you start writing poetry? Because it's such like a unique way of expressing yourself.
Can I also, what brought you to poetry? Because it's a pretty dead art, yes?
It's not that dead.
Oh, it's pretty dead.
No, I just mean, like, at one point in time, everyone was a poet, and now...
Yeah, it's so interesting that we're in this, like, worthless field.
That's not what I said. I said, what brought you to poetry, which is piggybacking.
I knew my colleagues.
Yeah, no, seriously.
So, it's hard to remember. I feel like it's always been there, I guess. Like, I feel like a lot of us read like Shel Silverstein and everything when we were younger, and I really like latched onto that. And when I would write when I was younger, I didn't really. Poetry is really easy to of these really emotionally intense things in this small little paragraph than it would be for me to flesh out like a whole novel about it. So I guess I just like accidentally fell into it when I was younger, and then decided that I really like poetry, started reading other poets, started changing my writing style, started really writing the poetry instead of just writing stuff to write, and now I write it all the time.
I think for me, the big reason I started writing poetry was very classic, 7th grade, like, you need to get your emotions out and you're not therapy, so you just put everything on a lined piece of notebook paper. And I did that a lot, and I got really, really into it. And Ben Cromwell, who taught here, for those who remember, he taught a class at my middle school, creative writing, and I would always it gave me a great opportunity to write a lot of like really terrible poetry. But similarly, poetry has always been a part of my life. My family is, I would say, pretty poetically minded. My grandma is constantly like reading out little haikus, doing little like listicles and things. Very, just like flowery, nerdy people, which I don't know, I find it nice. And I think what really kick-started poetry as a passion for me was, honestly, probably like being in a creative writing club at Veritas, because that was pretty important for me to like continue on and actually do it. And then when I started reading poetry at that point, I was like, wait a minute, this is it, like this is the stuff. So some people might think it's like dying or terrible.
I don't know what you said.
I'm somewhat of a black sheep, so I don't even care. So.
Totally true, I think. Anyone else?
Question over here.
This question is for Finn. How does it feel to be the only person in the world that's ever described my writing as careful?
So I actually read this to Derek, and he laughed when I got to that part. But this was, you have to keep in mind, I wrote this before I got my license. I'm 20 and I only got my driver's license a month and a half ago. So this is before, people were driving me everywhere. Like, it was 6:50 in the morning and we were on our way to Ely Chapel. Everything felt terrible.
For all 18 of those people.
Exactly. All 18 of them. We had seven. The limit is 18 to 1. We had 17 kindergartners in our classroom this summer.
Yay.
17. Yay.
For both of you, after having gone through this experience, would you recommend it to any of the other students to apply for this semester?
Absolutely.
Absolutely,
100%.
yeah. I do think you have to be ready for you to hate every single thing you put down.
You do.
And I mean that genuinely. It's like, I think everybody should be writing poetry. Everybody in the world should be trying their own arts out, especially poetry, because it's a great way to express yourself. It's a great way of like, I don't know, it's really fun. It's really fun. But you really have to be willing to look at your work and appraise your work, and like, get into the nitty gritty, because like he will not let you out unscathed. And I mean that loving. It's the best experience I've had, probably, for like my career in terms of like wanting to be a future writer. I genuinely think I am so much better at what I'm doing because of this experience and because of the people I did it with. So thank you guys for that. But like, genuinely, I would say that,
Yeah, I can piggyback off of that. Lovingly, of course, there may have been some times where Quail and I complained about feeling like we hate all of our work and being told that we needed to change everything. But guess what? It made us better in the end. It's important to do all of that work, and it's honestly better when you have someone with you that you can like bounce stuff off of. Like, I'm really glad that I was able to do this with someone that I could like speak to the entire time throughout the process, because it made me feel better. And like, I'm sure even without another person to do it with, ask all those questions to Jeremy and he will answer them. Go complain to him about himself and he won't.
That's his whole job. Yeah, pretty much in this situation.
And for students who are interested in applying to Poets and Playwrights, also for all of you who said, where is the playwright? We did not have one this year, but the name of the fellowship is Poets and Playwrights because we typically have one poet and one playwright who work with Jeremy over the summer. But
Yeah, we're just geeks.
Huh?
Yeah, we're just geeks. Sorry, like I said, I don't write big bodies of work.
But this past summer we had 2 poets, but the fellowship is usually opens in spring. And it is obviously open to theater students, English students, students who want to work on poetry, students who want to work on plays. And yeah, in our 5th year, so we've had a lot of success. We have produced some of the plays that have come out of Poets and Playwrights. And it is all funded typically by alumni. Alumni are funny, so if anyone wants to donate to Poets and Playwrights and help this going for future generations, you can talk to me. Do we have one more?
I have one specifically for Quail. So your poem about the cicada,
Yeah.
is this specifically the periodical cicadas or the dog-faced cicadas?
Yeah, I'm so glad that you've asked. I'm so glad because we did have to have a conversation about this, Jeremy and I, when we were doing the poem. It's like, So, in the poem specifically, for those who aren't aware, I don't know if anybody's not aware. You know, you get the yearly dog-day cicadas, and then there's the cicadas that come over periods of time. So you have cicadas that are like in the ground for 25 years, and then you get those big cicada blooms. You know, when that happens, it's like they all look up. Like, so, pretty cool. I do enjoy the periodical cicadas very much, but this was more of a dog-day cicada situation, as it's sort of like, I think that translates better for an ancestral knowing what has come before and thinking that you can change it, even though you didn't have to, you know, necessarily, is like, the cicada isn't gonna live forever, you know what I mean? But like he's gonna be here for the summer, but comes back next summer. So, I don't know, I just think it's kind of fun to think about, specifically with the dog days. So, yeah. So,
Any more? 2 more.
Okay, so there are so many outlets of expression, especially for emotional pieces and speaking out your emotions, talking about them, journaling them, writing music, writing lyrics, making physical art, things like that. What about poetry kept bringing you back? And is that your preferred outlet of emotional expression, or are there other things that you use as well?
I kept describing poetry as like a song without a melody. And I guess with poetry, like some people like to play around with their formatting and everything. So for me, poetry can kind of encompass the visual arts, the performance arts, and everything. If you're really putting your whole self into it, poetry can encompass all of these things. And for me, poetry is something like a song. Once I find a good poem, I can read it over and over and over again. And I guess it's just easy to read these short little excerpts instead of large novels or anything. It's easier to read that over and over and over again and get it stuck in your bones. So for me, I'm drawn back in because it really is like a song without a melody. It's like something that gets I quote them in my brain, they get stuck in my head. So I guess that I just feel it.
That's a good answer. I think for me, to be entirely honest, poetry at this point in my, I don't know what the word is, in my lifespan as a writer, I'm at a point currently in a phase, I suppose, where poetry is not my preferred method of dealing with my emotions, just because I'm I can't get the editor demon out of my head saying, you need to make this a good poem. That's not targeted at anyone. But so I don't know, I've been really focused on, usually when I have an issue, I would journal about it before I poem about it, you know what I mean? What I like about poetry, what keeps me coming back to it, is the fact that it's an art form where it doesn't tell you everything. You kind of have to search around You have to get the bits and pieces that the poet offers you and then expand on that your own. I also like the fact, on your own, I'm a big fan of the fact that poetry allows for a conversation between the reader and the one who wrote it. Like, these poems that I wrote, like the poems that I shared with you guys today, the second that you heard them and understood them, they weren't my poem anymore. You know what I mean? They were your poem, in a way. Because everybody's individual meaning of it will be different than what I intended. You can't possibly know all of the little bits and pieces and details that I put into there. And I think that's kind of beautiful. As an English major, as a person who really focuses a lot on trying to wheedle my way into what the author was trying to say here, I think it's really important to have those art forms where it's let's put all these little sticks down. You have to down them and make them in your own style. It's my understanding of a poem would be entirely different from somebody else's understanding. There were plenty of times over the course of the fellowship where Finn and I would be reading poems. We read a lot of poetry during this time, often together. And we would have different perspectives on what we wrote, what we read, what we wrote. And I think I think that's one of my favorite things about poetry is the fact that it is there are so few art forms that can so perfectly encapsulate the particulars of human emotion, and I think the fact that poetry doesn't literally state that out is the only way that it works, if that makes sense. So, I don't know, I just kind of like it.
Speaking of reading poetry together, at one point we pulled out all three of Jeremy Jusik's poetry books and read them together, and they are still sitting on my desk.
Yes, we did. Yeah. And we never told you that.
Surprise!
He needed the stress relief of he should have used a different word.
I hope
I
you
wasn't gonna
were
say that.
extra critical. I hope so. That's the only.
And for future students in the Poets and Playwrights thing, we have copies of all of his books.
We do.
So feel
All
free
of
to
mine
come
are
to us.
signed.
They're all signed. They're all signed. So feel free to come to us and if you want
If you just want to tear them apart.
we're here. We're here and we know. So yeah.
All right, I think we're gonna end right here with our last one.
Okay, I was kind of debating whether or not I was going to have a question, and then the idea of forcing Quail to answer something allured me too much to not to. So, I feel like ever since I learned how to write, I've been writing, and obviously one of those is poetry. So I'm just wondering, because I've personally flip-flopped my entire life, do you go into the poems, like when you go to write a poem, do you go in having the emotions and then seek to write out a poem? Or do you start with the poem and then you have to force out the intention behind it? Is it the emotions first, or do you need to pull those emotions out because you need to write a poem?
Yeah.
Purely just for your own enjoyment, not whatever this guy's forcing you to do.
When I'm not in twisted inner machinations of Jeremy Jusik, literally his terrible labyrinth of torture. And I say this lovingly. Sorry, we're getting too into this joke. We had a great time then.
I love Jeremy Jusik.
We love Jeremy. We love Jeremy. We're just very committed to the bit. So I would say usually I start with a feeling. Something has to happen. There is always an inciting incident for every single one of my poems. Every single one. Like the one about my dad's voicemail, I only wrote a poem about it because I had an experience where I went to a frat party and I told a random girl, hey, my dead dad's in my phone, do you want to hear him? So it was just a one-off conversation. It was related. It was a related situation. But it was very much yeah, let's take a listen. And we all crowded around and we listened to, this is Cavendish McKay, leave a message. And it's this pit bull sitting in the background. What are we doing? You know what I mean? And it's I don't know, I think this sounds so cheesy and lame. I'm going to say so cheesy and lame. It's when you're living the experiences, the poetry writes itself. You know what I mean?
I do.
I'm just saying. It's if you spend your time looking for moments of poeticism, you will find moments of poeticism in literally everything at all times. So if you have the poet's mindset, if you're holding a hammer, everything's a nail. And that's how it is to be a poet. Everything's a nail. And buddy, you've got a hammer. So I don't know, this is just, yeah.
It's true, I do have a moment. That was great.